Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about the properties of a parabola. And just to remind you, a parabola is either going to look like a U shape or it's going to look like a rainbow shape. And the properties in particular we're going to talk about is number one, the vertex. And the vertex is either going to be at the very bottom if it's shaped like a U, or at the very top if it's shaped like a rainbow. And the other thing I'm going to talk about is the axis of symmetry, or the line of reflection. Those mean the same thing. And the line of reflection is going to be this line that goes right through the vertex that splits the parabola in half. So this is called either a line of reflection, or more formally it's known as the axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry will go through your vertex, and we're going to find those two things. So first problem we're going to do is this one, x squared plus 2x minus 8. And I need to find the axis of symmetry, but the first thing I'm going to do is find the vertex. Before I can do that, I know that I can factor this thing. So let's go over factoring real quick. When you factor, you want to add to this middle term and multiply to this last term. So I need numbers that add to 2 and multiply to negative 8. So 2, 8, I can do 1 times 8, 2 times 4, and no, 3 doesn't work, and we already did 4, so that's it. For a negative, I can put negative there, I can put a negative there, or we could put a negative on the other side, 4. So these are the possibilities. Now I'm going to check to see if any of these add up to 2. Negative 1 plus 8 is 7, so that doesn't work. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So this becomes x minus 2 and x plus 4. And if you remember, for solving, this is going to become x is equal to 2 and negative 4. Because 2 minus 2 is 0, and negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So when I'm graphing this thing, I know that I have x-intercepts at negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and positive 2. Now, I'm looking for this axis of symmetry that's going to go somewhere here in the middle. Now, you might be able to identify it right now, but we want to know exactly where it is. So here's how you do it. The middle is going to be, you add up your two x-intercepts, and you divide it by 2, because we're going to find the average. So in this case, I'm going to do 2 plus negative 4, and we're going to divide it by 2, which is negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. So my x-intercept, or my axis of symmetry, is right here. X equals negative 1. So through negative 1, it's going to be this vertical line. It's always going to be x equals, because axis of symmetries for parabolas always go straight up and down. So this is x equals negative 1. Now what about the vertex? I don't know where the vertex is, but I know it's somewhere along this line. So if I know what x is, I could plug it into the equation to find y. And remember, from up here, this can also be sometimes known as y. So here's my equation. Y equals x squared plus 2x minus 8. And I want to find what y is when x is negative 1. So we're literally going to plug it in. So we get y equals, and instead of x, I'm going to put negative 1 squared plus 2 times, again, instead of x, we're going to put negative 1 minus 8. And now we're going to just do a little bit of arithmetic. Negative 1 squared, or negative 1 times negative 1, is 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 minus 8. And if you follow along, 1 minus 2 is negative 1 minus 8 more is negative 9. So from up here, we knew that x was negative 1. And now we've decided that y is negative 9. So this is our vertex. And if you're graphing it, you'd find out that at negative 1, negative 9, that's your vertex. So it would look something more or less like this. So again, two things to find. You need to be able to find your axis of symmetry. That's the new thing. And we do that by finding the middle, but there's a shortcut I'm going to show you in just a minute. And then we're going to find the vertex. So that shortcut comes from the, I'm going to change to blue, comes from the quadratic formula. And if you remember the quadratic formula, it starts with the opposite of b, and then it's plus or minus blah, 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 and on the bottom it's all over 2a. Well, that part of the quadratic formula also happens to be your axis of symmetry. So all you have to do is identify b, and A, plug it into this little formula, and you have your axis of symmetry. So let's go up here and take a look. A is right here. It's the number before x, which is 1. B is right here, and that is 2. So we're going to plug those in. So it's the opposite of 2, because B was 2, all over 2 times A was 1. So we got negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. So x was equal to negative 1, which is what we found right here. After that point, you're still going to do this part the same. That doesn't change. But you can skip all of this by just using this little formula. So I'm going to do another one and show you that again. This time we're going to do y equals 2x squared minus 3x plus 5. And I'm going to use the shortcut, so I need to figure out what a and b are. A is this number before x squared, so it's 2. B is the number before x, it's negative 3. This thing is equal to 0 because I can change y to 0, so I'm allowed to do a, b, and c from this one. And I'm going to plug it in here, so we know that x is equal to the opposite of b over 2a. So it's the opposite, in this case b is negative 3, all over 2 times a, which is 2. Negative negative becomes positive, so this is 3 over, and 2 times 2 is 4. So our axis of symmetry is x is equal to 3/4. Now to figure out the vertex, yes, we have to plug it back in. And I know that a lot of you are going to cringe because you see a fraction there, but we can just write it. Doesn't hurt to write. We're just going to replace the x with 3/4. And I'm going to find y by simply typing all this into the calculator. And if you don't know, you can use Desmos to do this. So I'm going to type it in right here, and we can find what the answer is. So we got 2 times, instead of 3/4, I could write it in, but I don't want to. I'm going to use the decimal 3/4, which is 0.75. And then we're going to square it. Remember, square is down here if you don't know the shortcuts. And we're going to subtract 3 times. Again, 3/4 is the decimal is 0.75. And we're going to add 5 to that, and it says our answer is 3.875. So going back here, this answer is y is equal to 3.875. I'm going to just double check, make sure I have that right. 3.875 is correct. So our vertex is going to be 3/4 or 0.75 and 3.875. So it doesn't matter what they give you. You can just identify A and B, plug them in real quick, and then you'll be able to find your vertex no matter how ugly it is, and this is a quick way to do it. If you have questions, make sure you ask.